Good evening, everyone. As the other Nick has already said, and you'll see a few more this evening, my job as a future explorer implies that most of my days, I and my colleagues at Pantopicon, we help our clients, which are public agencies or companies, to explore the future, see what it might bring, what it might mean for them. And the question that's very central to that is not what shall the future be like, but what if certain things would happen? What would that mean for me? So what I did was I took a stroll through my town, my city here in Hasselt, and I took a few pictures, a few snapshots, and thought about what might the future bring to these spots, and I'd like to take you on that tour. So what if we would look at not only at the shopping level of our streets, but if we would look at the first level of our streets, what will we see? It's a wasteland. We see brick walls, we see cemented windows, we see no people, and no city or no community can actually survive without there being people and solid bonds between people. So what if we could stimulate people to go and live back into these city centers? A good community can neither survive if you don't have a nice connection with your past, or at least a view of it, or know about it, or about your future. What if new technologies like augmented reality could help us to live different ages of our city at the same time, or look forward into the future and annotate our present? Jan has already shown you one place that gets overlooked very often when we think about our urban environment, and that's below ground. Well, even if we look up in the sky, that sky is also technically at least part of our city. So we have an aerodrome right nearby, which was the first airport in Belgium. Maybe it could have a new future also as an airport, but for blimps or for airships. What if we could, and we have a good example here since we're at Kai 16, what if the waterway would once again turn into a real alternative for our motorways? What if not only our cargo in bulk, but also packets, smaller parcels, as well as people would be using the waterways again as a very solid means of transportation? The same goes for, we've constructed ring roads around our cities to allow us to keep heavy traffic out of our cities, but instead of just keeping the traffic out, it also separates our cities and cuts through them. So what if we would have a network of electric cars and electric distribution systems within the town center? As for roofs, we've already seen some green roofs. Well, those green roofs can also be used to plant food. So what if we would take a simple parking lot here? These used to be gardens, by the way. Right now it's a parking lot for the Flemish Land Agency and the Flemish Environmental Agency, which shows how much they care about concrete. What if not only our food could be produced in town, but also our products? I mean, new technologies in terms of rapid prototyping and new manufacturing techniques actually created the Artisan 2.0, I would say, which allows us at a small scale to have the same advantages as mass-produced products at a low price, one-off products. What if the smart grid in a few years will be there and we will be able not only to consume energy but also produce energy? What if we could create neighborhood networks of energy with piezoelectric tiles that would tap into the energy of the cars vibrating along the street? So maybe we do need those cars in the streets actually. What if that trading of energy could not only be done through monetary euros, but also through, for example, not just trading services, but all the barter systems that are very popular in India, for example, and trickling up to Western countries at the time. Local currencies in the UK are stimulating local economies. And it's a well-known fact among architects, although I see very little or very few good examples, is that a city is a place for 24 hours. What happens with all the buildings, all the office buildings, when people go home at 5 o'clock? Why wouldn't we use them in another way? This is a phenomenon from New York to Tokyo, actually, and in Milan you have a very few good ones as well, which are living room restaurants. Very dry air here. Living room restaurants that are a big success, actually, brings people together, and you don't need to go to a normal restaurant. What if what is now a place for the poor, basically? Very sweet, thank you. What if a bank we wouldn't see just as a place to get money, but actually to exchange things of value to us, time, skills, needs, where actually they would bring people together and not just the transaction support. What if, like in indigenous societies, if we had important decisions to make for our towns and for our communities, we would think not only of the next generation, but about the next 7 generations, and then decide whether it's a good idea or not? Would it really slow us down or just prevent us from making the wrong decisions all the time? No, we're not going to turn into Bugs Bunny, don't worry. What if we would actually look forward to the day that we would receive our tax note? And now everybody's running out of the room. No, actually in Sweden and in Norway and a couple of other Scandinavian places, people are happy when they receive their tax form. Why? Because they get a lot in return for their taxes. They even ask for more taxes. What if we would double the taxes and you could decide what to spend the other 50% on? What if you could decide if a building turns into a cancerous place in your city because a building owned by the local authorities or the national authorities is not put to good or to new use? What if you could get a say in what happens? Would it create a stakeholder citizenship where everybody's more involved? Now we think of building buildings with bricks and mortar. We have a very flourishing a few very flourishing building companies right here that use a lot of bricks and mortar. But what if protocells, cells that before things become living organisms, could be used to actually construct buildings, could be grow-out buildings? What if our cities would turn into laboratories for experimentation, and every experimentation actually needs also room for failure? And that's a very important thing if we want to get to an innovative city and have a few things in here that are right now distributed out there. Like William Gibson said, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. So maybe we can take some cues from things we see elsewhere. And crisis and savings that we're living right now, we already know that in the next coming years, there will be very little we can expect from governments and local authorities. So maybe it's not what you can ask your city to do for you, but what you can do for your city. So I think there's an assignment for all of us to make us good communities, well-functioning communities. It's not only about the bricks and mortar. Thank you.